Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be starting episode 14 of our Catacombs series, where we take you on some deep dive D2R tutorials. And with that said, today's topic is going to be all about creating custom color dyes for your mod. So you're looking to dye your weapon or your armor black or pink or something like that, just to add some customization to your character. This will show you how to do that. So with that said, if you guys are enjoying this kind of content, make sure you like, subscribe. You guys know the drill by now. And with all that out of the way, let's roll right into the mod. So we're going to start by, as usual, grabbing all the files we need. For this edit, you technically only need one file, but we're going to add a few more to kind of make this a more proper system, if you will. So the only file you technically need is your states file, and then I guess the other file you would need is like your cube or something to add that state. So we'll grab that out as well. But we're going to say that you also wanted to add your own stat to this color dye to let the player know, what they're color dyed with and that kind of stuff. So for that, we're going to also grab out item stat cost.txt to create our stat. And then we're going to finally grab out properties.txt. This will let us control and link to that stat. So those are the four text files we need. You're also going to want to edit a string, but we'll do that near the end of the video here. These are the only text files that you'll need. So with that said, we're just going to minimize that and get right into it. So we'll start with states.txt. Again, this is where you're going to be adding your actual kind of color dye mechanic. And the most important thing to note is that in this particular file, we do have a limit of 255 rows. So as you can see, as of patch 2.5.1, we have about 190 rows taken currently. So that leaves you, the remaining 65 or whatever that works out to, that you can use, for your own mod purposes. This color dye system does have the ability to take up a ton of state slots if you let it, depending on how much you want to customize it. So again, just be mindful, if you go over that 255 rows, the game's going to crash. It just will not work. So you just need to make sure that you stay under that amount. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's go ahead and add our new row. And we're just going to call this, I don't know, color dye red, let's say. And we'll update the ID. And then we want to just lock these rows, and we're going to go all the way over to the kind of item trans section. So we're going to see two columns here that we care about. It's going to be item type and item trans. For the item type, just as it sounds, this is going to be the state that this, the different item types that this state will apply to. So just to make real quick sense of that, I'm going to go ahead and open up item types.txt, and we can see all of our different kind of item types here. So if you wanted this state, this color transform to only work on a shield, for example, then you can use the shield item type in this column here, and it's only going to apply that to shield. If you wanted to apply it to all armors, so they dye it red and their entire character appearance turns red, something like that, then you can use the armo shield item type. So we're going to go ahead and use that just for demonstration's sake. So again, we're selling it to use this color transform on any armor. That includes helms, shields, torsos, armor items. And then for the item trans column, we need to give it a color. So to do that, we can just open up colors.txt and take a look at some of the Diablo 2 Resurrected built-in colors. And we can see all of our different transform colors here, as well as the codes that we need to use them. So we were making our color dye red apparently. The crystal version of any colors are going to be like your bright, vibrant colors. So we're going to go ahead and pick C red as our transform state. And I'm going to put that C red again in that item trans column. So just a quick recap, we've made our new state. We've told it to apply the crystal red color on any armor type. And that's all we need to do for this state. We're going to go ahead and add a 0 to the end of the line here to finish that out, and we're all done with our state. Now technically this state will work. We can go into game and we can start using it. So to show you how to do that, let's just create a quick recipe here by opening up our cube main.txt. We're going to scroll to the bottom, add ourselves a new recipe, and we'll enable it. We'll set it to ladder, why not? We're going to give it 2 inputs. So the first input is going to be our armor. Again, we set our state to work for, any armors. Any armor here. So we just want our recipe to match that. And then for our second input, you can use a special item, like if you had a color dye bottle or something like that. For demo purposes, we're just going to use a town portal scroll, so that's going to be TSC. And now for the output, we want it to output whatever this armor is because we're just trying to add a color dye onto it. We don't want to change the actual armor. So for that, we're going to do use item for the output. Now for the mod 1, we're going to type in state. And this tells the cube that we're trying to apply a state instead of a stat to the item. And for the mod 1 parameter, we can skip the chance and, unless you want it to have, only 50% chance at working or something like that. But if not, it'll just default to always working. So anyways, for the mod 1 parameter field is where we use our state ID. So for us, that ID for our red color dye is going to be 190. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in for our parameter. And then for the min and max, we're just setting it to 1. We're basically just telling the game to give 1 to that state to enable it. So we're all done with that recipe. Just once more, I'm going to add my 0 to the end of line here, and we're going to say that we're done. We can, add a name or whatever, a description to the recipe if we want, but obviously I was too lazy for that. So let's go ahead, go in game, make sure, do a quick sanity check and make sure I didn't do anything wrong there. But what we should see is that we can apply the state to our item no problem, but it's not really going to indicate that it's color dyed other than, just the physical color itself changing. So let's go ahead and grab a couple items and show you what I mean here. So let's grab these 2. All right. So we have our normal armor here. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit, show you what it looks like. So you can see it's basically just the shoulder pads for this version, this particular armor. So knowing that, let's go ahead and put in our recipe. So again, just whatever armor we wanted to use, plus a town portal scroll. And again, it doesn't really look like it did anything. It just looks like it ate the town portal scroll. But now if I were to put that armor on, you can see that the shoulder pads are having that red tint. So again, if I swap back and forth between them, you can kind of see it a little better. Different armors, like if I picked a ring mail or something, it would probably have a greater impact on the overall colors. Things with metal work really well. I did do any armor, so let's go ahead and grab a shield also, and I'll go grab a couple more town portal scrolls and show you what I mean. All right, so let's also put it in with this cube here, or sorry, with the shield. And it might be a little more noticeable with things like the shield. So you can see here we have our color dye red, buckler. So you can use this how you want, but just once more, it does not show that it's color dyed at all. The player has no idea. It's basically just invisibly applying this state, and that's just all there is to it. So if you wanted to add like an actual stat, so that when this state is applied, the player can tell that they have, color dyed or what color it is, that kind of thing, then that is where we jump into item stat and properties. So the first thing we need to do is just create our new stat. So once more, I'm just going to scroll to the bottom here. We're going to add ourselves a new row. And we're going to call this color dye underscore red. We'll give it the next ID in the sequence. I've already gone over this in kind of my corruption mechanics tutorial, and I strongly recommend reading the Blizzard guide for this. But essentially, we're just trying to decide how big our stat needs to be, how many save bits it needs in order to store the maximum values and stuff. For this particular mod, we don't need much, so I'm just going to give it like a send bits of 2. This basically, we'll do 3 actually. This will just let it store a value like up to 8, which we don't even need that high, but I'll explain. For our color dye red, we're then going to use for the save bits, we'll also use 3. For the save add, we're going to use 1. and then once more, save bit 3, save add 1. And the reason we're doing this is we do want to be able to subtract 1 from the stat. Again, depending on how you're utilizing this, you can adjust this as you want. For us, this is what we're going to use. And so that's all we need to do other than add our new string entries. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy these here, and then we'll edit what we want. So for their priority, this is just where it appears on the list of stats. We want it to appear, let's say, at the very, very top of all the stats. So I'm going to set the priority to 999. So it's just like guaranteed to be the first one, in the list there. For the function, we can use, I think 17 will work fine. Yeah, let's go ahead and switch it to 17. You can check the data guide from Blizzard if you are ever, get stuck and, not sure exactly what you need to do. So for example, for item stat cost here, we can scroll down to the different functions. And you can see for the desk functions, all these different, what they're going to use. So we'll go ahead and leave it at 19. And now we're going to set our string entries. So for this, we're just going to use something like CD underscore red. CD underscore red. So this is going to be our string key. We'll go and create that in just a minute here. But this just tells it what to use. So again, our stat's complete. We've told it how big the stat should be with all our different save bits and stuff like that. And then finally, we've assigned a string to that stat so that something will appear in game when we assign that. So our stat's created. Now we want to assign a property to that stat so we can more easily control it through things like the cube and other places. So for that, I'm just going to once more add a new row. We're going to name this color dye dash red. We're going to show those. All right, we're going to put 1 for the enabled column. For the function to use, we'll just use 17 again. For the stat, this is where we give it this stat, so color dye underscore red. So that's going to be the stat that property controls. And then, like always, we're going to add 0 to our end of column here. And now our property is linked to our stat. So I know that was a bit of a detour, but we've now assigned our property. We've created our stat. So now if we go back to our recipe here, we can also add that stat onto the item with our state so that it shows for the character. So for that, we're just going to use our new property, which again was color dye dash red. So that's the property we're going to control. We don't need to mess with chance or parameter. We're just going to add 1 to that entry to show that they have that stat. And so now if I go into game, we've made all of our changes here. We should see that on that item, if we generate it again, we should now see a stat appear with the item. So we'll just take this shield or this armor here. We're going to use our recipe, and now you can see it says an evil force. That's because we didn't actually add the string definition in it yet, but you can see now that it is adding a stat to the item. So if I zoom in here, you can see that our armor is turned red. We've got all the red fringes and stuff for this particular armor look. And so let's just, we know it works. Now let's quickly show you how to change that string. So we're just going to go into our data, local language strings, and then we're going to do the same in our task folder. And we're going to grab out our item modifiers. Oh, there we go. We actually already had it from a previous edit. So I'll just cheat and use that, and we're going to add our new stat. So once more, we're going to add it to the bottom. We're going to give it a new ID. If you have not gone over our previous videos on how to do this, I strongly recommend it. Once more, just to recap, if we go back to our item stat, we gave our string entry a name of CD underscore red. So that's what we're going to go ahead and put here for the key. And we'll go ahead and keep it exactly like that. I'm not going to bother with all the other languages, but we're just going to say color dye red. So now they know it's been color dyed red. And you can adjust the actual color code. So if you want the red to appear red, we can do that kind of thing. I am too lazy for that, so I'm just going to skip out on that for now. And now we should see that we are basically done with this tutorial. When we go into game, our item should not only be color dyed red, but it should show to the player that it is color dyed red. So there you go. They can now see the stat, and they can know when it's been color dyed. So I guess the last thing I should show you just real quick is if you want to remove this. Maybe they want to switch colors or something like that. You're basically going to do the same thing, but in reverse. So you're going to, let me just copy this row and I'll explain that. So instead of adding state 190, you want to subtract state 190 so that it removes this state from them. You also want to do that with the color dye so that it no longer shows, that they have a red color dye. Then, if you want to add a new color, so let's pretend that they're changing from red to green, then we would do that all on the same line. So we've removed the old colors and stats. Now we're adding the new colors and stats. So we're going to say that your green was state 191. And again, we're adding 1 to that state. And now we have a new stat for your green color. So that we're going to say it was color dye dash green. And you also want to add 1 to those. So again, you're doing the same exact thing. You're just removing the previous color in the previous stat and then adding the new color and the new stat. And again, I strongly recommend checking out the other videos in the data guide, but you can also set up OP params to force check for a specific color. So you can check to see if they already have that stat enabled. And if they do, you can switch colors, things like that. But I hope this has helped explain how you can use this to your advantage and create your own kind of custom colors. Thanks for sticking around to the end and have a great day. Bye.